Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really cool knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Manganas steel Aurelia, which was designed by Sharif Manganas. I am so certain that I mispronounced so much of that. I thought this intro is going to be impossible, but this is OEM'd by Riyadh. And let me start this off the right way. This is a super nice knife, and it is also, I'm flabbergasted that the pre-order price is what it is. This is an exceptional design. It's an exceptional thing to exist for the price, especially considering it was made by Riyadh, and also because it is Magna Cut at 63 HRC. I'm not sure how they got it to 280. If you're new to knives, you're going to think $280 for a pocket knife. You know, you're going to do that typical freak out thing that all of us do the first time we step into this world. But if you've been here for a while, then you'll know that that is shockingly low for what this is. So the pre-order is available. If you're watching this at the time that I release this video, I would highly recommend, if you like how this looks, I'm going to say a lot of nice things about it because truthfully, this is one of my favorite, I guess this is a pre-production prototype, right? But this is one of my favorite things to come out of 2024 that has a blade on it. Links for this guy down in the description. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this beautiful, beautiful knife. Overall length, oh boy, look at that. If you are a fan of full size and beyond, this is 8.35 inches with a 3.65 inch blade and 3.5 inches of cutting edge. I love that. Love it a lot. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010, you can see here it's the same length or just about the same length. It's just nowhere near as robust. It is definitely larger than something like the 8020.5. Let's put it up against the Spyderco. Where is the Spyderco? Why is that? I'm always blind to this knife. The Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. It looks a little bit longer. It's the angle of the camera. It's almost identical in length. Almost identical. Just slightly longer. Definitely longer than the Para 3. And then let's go ahead and put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? Well, Riyadh does a great job with action. You have two options for deployment. You have the incredibly comfortable thumb studs. The thumb stud shape and texturing is incredibly important when it comes to ease and comfort of deployment. These are perfect. These are so good. Oh, so perfectly placed, man. I love that. It also has a front flipper, which is there. It's not ideal as a front flipper, but it does work. I personally have ignored the front flipper completely on this knife, which is, I think, probably the intentional. This is by design. I think that he knows that certain people are just not going to want to use it. And so he made it to where it's barely even a thing. You can simply ignore it if you don't like it, and I did. I really enjoy deploying this knife. I think the D10 is tuned perfectly, and most importantly, the position and the shape and the texture on the thumb studs is ideal for deployment. I don't love the ledge. I mean, it looks like it's scalloped out here, but there's a ledge right there that's a little sharp. I wish that they had smoothed this over a little bit and cut this side a little bit lower so that we had a little better access to that. But it's not bad. It is definitely not a deal breaker. It's just something that I notice in contrast to everything else being so good. This runs on bearings, but it will also accept thick phosphor bronze washers, and it will also accept skiff bearings. Admittedly, I can't remember if it comes with skiff bearings. I will say that the bearings it comes with are very, very good. But it will definitely accept skiff bearings, and it will accept thick PB washers. What's the point of that? Well, the thicker phosphor bronze washers add increased stability over regular phosphor bronze washers, and if you are familiar with customizing and taking knives apart and doing the washers, tend to be a little mushy. You can sometimes the blade looks centered and then at the next moment it's not, and it's because it just kind of mushes left or right. You don't always get perfect lockout side-to-side stability with washers. Or anybody who's been a fan of Benchmade for a long time knows exactly what I'm talking about. The thicker washers allow for massively increased stability, while at the same time doing a much better job than bearings at keeping debris out of the pivot. They are self-lubricating, and over time, the action will get smoother and smoother and smoother. Probably never as smooth as bearings, but to some people, that's a huge benefit. So the nice thing is you can pick what you want. I think that's really, really cool, and it's a huge added benefit to this knife. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. These are contoured, so while it is ever so slightly thicker, we have beautiful contoured scales, which is definitely a factor that should be considered when you're looking at the price tag. That's much more expensive to do than a flat piece of titanium. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is a large knife, and it feels like a large knife or a full-size knife, but it's not massive, right? Overall length is about the same closed as the PM2. It's definitely larger than the Para 3. Not quite as tall as either. Where you'll notice it is the weight, because this is full titanium. It is milled out for weight reduction, but we have pretty substantial amount of titanium, right? And a pretty darn good-sized blade. So I'm going to guess that this big guy comes in slightly under or slightly over 5 ounces. Let's find out. There we go. No, I'm just really wrong. 4.3 ounces, really not bad at all. I think it's just, I guess just has a substantial, like the profile just, I think maybe knives that I really like seem bigger to me. Like their personality seems very loud. So maybe I judge them as heavier. I don't know. I don't know what the psychology behind that is. The balance point is slightly back of the pivot. Not bad at all. I really don't have an issue with 4.3. It does carry larger than the average pocket knife, though. I guess I'll leave it at that. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, or the pinned comment. We have a T8 pivot. We have, for some reason, screws for the stop pin. That probably could have just been pinned in place, but okay, not a big deal. At least it's T8. And we got 2 body screws back here for the frame, and then you have a hidden screw underneath for the pocket clip, and then 1 more screw over here. You've got a screw for the lock bar insert, but you know, nobody takes out the lock bar insert screw unless they're weird, so you don't need to do that. But as long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Very minimal hardware, really, really nice. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. I bet that's at least 145, perhaps thicker. No, I'm wrong. 135 thousandths, exactly the middle of the road. The most average blade stock thickness, at least from my perspective, after 4,300 videos. So probably, I bet I'm pretty close. Anyways, let's go ahead and do the meat and potatoes here. What a good looking knife. What is it about this profile? It's not like it's a brand new profile, right? We've seen this elongated drop point, clip point hybrid before. We've certainly seen that knife handle before, but the flow of it is so good. I think what I really like about it is that it's just the plain tumbled. Admittedly, this would have looked so cool with some sort of inlay or a little texture pattern. It would have been fine, but it also looks really good by itself. I like that the pivot collar has a few different, well, the pivot itself. We got the polished pivot, and we got a flat polished pivot collar around. It's real nice, right? Then you have this beautifully high reflectivity tumbled Magna Cut blade. This one says M390, but if you go, this is a pre-production prototype, right? If you go to their website, it says Magna Cut 63. So I'm handling this way before everybody else is going to get their pre-orders, which, by the way, it says once they put in the orders, right? This is a knife that you'll have to wait for. I like how they do this, by the way. Sometimes people get mad. A pre-order, I have to wait for it. It's a lot better than the thing becoming really popular after some idiot named Metal Complex reviews it, and then they drop 50 of them and they're gone immediately. Was that the way you want to do it? No, I'm going to go ahead and answer that question for you. No, you don't want to do it that way. That way sucks. It's much better to pre-order it. I applaud them for doing that. I think that's a much better way. So, on the website, it says once the pre-orders are, is done and it's closed, they know exactly how many to make. They will send that off to Riot. Riot will produce that number, probably a few more in case there's returns or whatever. And then that takes about 4 months. That's really fast. If you are not familiar with pre-orders in the knife world and stuff like this, that's super fast. Normally, a pre-order, I would say 6 to 7 months. And then on the longer end, you're looking at a year. So, 4 months, I don't think that's bad. And I think that's a really smart way to do this because I think it's inevitable, whether me or whoever else covers this knife, I think this knife is just going to be really popular either way. But beautiful blade. Edge, behind the edge thickness, I'd say is about medium, right? The edge is done beautifully. 63 Magna Cut is going to be fantastic. Essentially a perfect balance of corrosion resistance, toughness, edge stability, edge retention, and ease of maintenance. That 63 is, you ask 100 people and you're going to get probably 95 of them saying that's about perfect. So this is a great geometry for Magna Cut at 63 and essentially an ideal user blade. Really, really good, and it looks so good. I have an issue with the jimping though. Why is this essentially useless? Like this is such like a use it for almost anything knife related kind of. When I say almost anything, and people are like, "Well, I'll only trust my cold steel prying lock because I'm always prying up railroads and other weird crap." All right, normal knife tasks, right? This is a use it for any type of normal knife task type of knife. I want the jimping to be functional. This is essentially useless. We need that to be deeper. And you can see here, it's just not deep enough. It just needs to be a little bit deeper so we can get in there and make use of it. Outside of that though, the edges are knocked down. Little bit of a ledge here, but not bad. The contouring really helps with that. The other thing that I think is nice is this pocket clip, which for me is a little bit too long. But the reason it's not quite as offensive is because it lays slightly lower than it would if that pocket underneath wasn't there. I'm realizing this is something that I wish we saw on a lot more knives. This has the relief cut on the inside, which people like the look of. As far as I understand, because of the way that this curves in towards the tang of the blade, it's not quite as strong as having the relief cut on the outside. I had 2 different people explain this to me, and it's not that I don't understand it, I just keep forgetting exactly what they said. So if that person is there or somebody knows, it has to do with like stress and the point of least resistance or something like that. But having the relief cut on the outside doesn't look as good, but it is apparently stronger than having it on the inside when you're comparing apples to apples, the same, exactly the same size of the lock bar, size of the relief cut, right? The tang of the blade, all of that. But anyways, I think this will be fine. In fact, I can go ahead and give you guys the light. Yeah, Riat knows how to make a frame lock. If you're doing anything more than that, if you're putting more impact force on the spine of your pocket knife than that, you need a different tool. Period. But the pocket that they've cut out here means that the clip sits slightly lower. Now, this doesn't change anything. In my experience, in and out of the pocket, this made no difference. It was just as easy. In fact, it's beautifully easy because of the curvature of that pocket clip and the bill. But it sits a little lower. And because it sits a little lower, I don't notice it as much in the middle of my hand. So I really like that. I think that that's really smart, and I wish that we saw that on more knives. It's certainly not unique to this knife. I've seen it before many times, but I wish we saw it a lot more often. Really, really cool. This knife doesn't have a lot of other crazy things going for it, and I think it's kind of minimalist in a good way. It still has its own personality. It's very, very beautiful and very impressive in the materials department, right? So a lot of times I say I really would have liked it more with texturing or something else, and I think it would look really nice with an inlay or a texture pattern or whatever, but I don't think it needs it. I think this knife does a really good job without it, and it's not something that I often say. It has a little kind of a weird lanyard hole area, but it's fine. It doesn't take away from anything. There's no lefty mounting position, which is a bummer. Lefties, sorry. You can buy it and carry it like a right-handed person or just not buy it. But we have a simple backspacer, nothing going on here. Also really appreciate that there is no branding whatsoever on the show side. Hope they plan to keep it that way. On this side, not even anything crazy, right? Just the Manganas or Manganas logo. And it says M390, but again, this is planned to be Magna Cut. And that's it, right? Simple backspacer. Not a whole lot going on this side either. We have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. We have a stop pin with a little bit of shouldering, but right behind the the front flipper. So a little bit of curvature there. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Riot. I don't think I've ever handled a Riot knife that had improper geometry on lockup and a titanium frame lock. I think they're all pretty great. High tension on that lock bar. There's a lot, boy. But that lends to the detent feeling really good and the the blade feeling really satisfying to deploy. Really good. There is no double clutch, and you can disengage high enough on the frame lock to have the blade fall and contact your finger in the sort of sharpening choil area. So that's really, really good. And then, like I said, really smooth, nice detent, and perfect centering with no detent lash. The pre-order on this magnificent beast is $280. How did you even get Riot to do this? Like, if someone said, hey, listen, we got almost an 8.5-inch knife, contoured titanium, high polished stone washed Magna Cut, 63 HRC. And I'd say, who's it made by? They'd say Riot. I'd say that's a $350 knife all day. Back in 2018, that would have been $350. $280. This is ridiculous. Buy this. This is awesome. I love this knife. This is one of the best values in the premium territory for 2024. It's an awesome looking design. It's super beautiful, super functional. Just really great. Yeah, the lock bar is a little bit sharp. The front flipper is not the best front flipper, but I don't care. I'm not going to use it, right? And the jimping essentially doesn't work. But outside of that, it's those are little things, right? I love this. Left-handed people, it sucks you can't get in on this, right? Unless you want to just carry it in the right-hand pocket. But yeah, this is extremely, extremely recommendable. Definitely one of my favorite things of 2024. A late entry for that list for sure. Expect to hear more about this knife. I will link the pre-order down in the description. I love this thing. Hyper recommendable. If you're going to spend $280, listen, if you've never spent that much money on a knife before, but you're like, I'll do it if the right thing comes along, this is it. If you're going to spend $280 on a knife right now, this is the knife. This is crazy. Really, really good. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.